57, Mother. I didn't realize it, but last week was the 1-year anniversary of the podcast. 56 weeks in a row. Didn't miss a single one. We started with a shitty couch that made us look fat on camera, and then we moved moved from there. We went from solo to duo to guests, but now we're here. We pretty much got everything set up, but we still can't figure out the mics. But on the bright side, I did figure out the
Give it another year.
Yeah. Maybe hopefully it gets double as good. But I finally figured out my microphone issue. It's actually not the microphones, which is good, which means we don't have to get any expensive microphones. It's actually that thing that's the problem.
Oh, the bass?
Yeah, this one specifically, the right one.
Yeah.
Causes a sound bug.
Oh.
So that's okay, because I wanted to get a new one of these, because this one, I've had this since I've had my first computer. Right? So that thing's got to be almost 8 years old at least, and I'd like to get one with more slots so that
you would think 8 years wouldn't be that.
Considering I've just started using this one since the podcast, right? And we've only had the double mic since December, right?
Why were we using one mic? I don't remember.
We're just using one. So we're getting there. We're getting to that JRE production or the JRE or Bannon production.
Yeah, right.
Now we just need some people in Denver to yell at whenever there's a problem. But for once this week, we have not really that much political news, but a lot of fun news in a sense. What else?
Because I learned my lesson when you kept saying, "This is depressing, Mom."
Every time.
It's depressing.
I cry myself to sleep after all of our podcasts. I'm like, dear God, Mom.
Giving people nightmares.
Yeah, the amount
Gloom
of
and doom.
So, anyway, but for those of you wondering, Bo's recovery is going pretty well. He keeps making some breaks though. Sometimes we're like, "Where'd he go?" he just kind of, we find him somewhere in the house, which is.
He came downstairs today. He's not supposed to do that. Jumping up on furniture, not supposed to do that.
Right, and then last night, Dad and I went to my first MMA fight live. So I've never been to a UFC or anything.
And casino.
First time I've ever really been in a casino. I know that's weird to say when you're 27, but also I don't have a degenerate gambling addiction, so there's a reason I'm not in casinos.
Mommy kept you out.
Yeah. I will say I don't know how many of you guys have been to like a professional sports
thing. Wait in
thing.
the car. I gotta go do my slots. You kids wait here.
There goes the college fund. But yeah, it was at Wind Creek in Pennsylvania, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I didn't realize how big casinos are. Like huge casinos.
Yep.
And that's just a Pennsylvania one, not a Vegas one. Dad was explaining to me the Vegas ones. I was like, how do you know that? You're a degenerate
We've been
gambler.
there 3 times. The Vegas was for work stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, wait in the car.
Wait in the car.
I'll be out at 5.
You know, I think I said this today. I might have said this to you too, but whenever I walk into those casinos or see videos on those casinos, I always feel sad because I just think of all the gambling addiction in that room and how it's catered to making people not leave. Like, there's no windows. There's mini golf. There's axe throwing, escape rooms. So it's almost like a giant mall as well. It was a really nice place. I'd go back there. It's only like 55 minutes away.
One of my first conferences as a worker when I was at Goldman Sachs, we had to go to a casino down in Atlantic City. They had the conference there. And I just remember I was like 21 years old, seeing the same person at the same slot machine the next morning when I woke up.
That's scary.
That was the night before. God. But they're all, that's the environment. Life, yeah. And, you know.
When you don't know what time it is. And I'm surprised they don't collect phones just to check times.
Nothing thrilled. Well, they don't have windows because they don't want people to leave. They don't want you to know what time it is. They want to get that concept out.
How many mortgages have been bought? How many? You know, can you actually bet a mortgage?
But then again, people do win. You know, sometimes people do win.
It's very, very rare. But as I was saying, so we had the UFC fights there. It's like a whole, almost like arena, and it was Maverick MMA, so not the UFC, but a lower division because our friend has a team in there. He won both of his fights. He's got a championship now, and then one of our friends who we went to a car show with, he was fighting. When you have a friend on the line, it's like, oh, this is like the heart rate.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's more interesting. You actually care. But I will say that when you're kind of cage side, it's very different than what you see on TV. It is significantly faster than you would expect. So, like, I can't imagine how fast the UFC is, but there was a guy that double-legged someone, so went down on him to like wrestle him with his legs. It was so fast, I didn't even realize what happened. I was like, holy shit. Like, when you're actually there in person, it's the camera on TV actually can keep up with all the movements because perfect angles, whatever. When you're actually there cage side and they're on a platform so you can see up at them, essentially, it is fast. Yeah. Every punch, every kick, it's fast. Like, I can't imagine. I guess basketball, I don't know if the speed's that much different, but boxing is probably a wild ride. Like, with how fast those punches go. Like, you can see it.
Never been to a boxing match.
I don't think I have either. Kenny definitely has, but yeah, it was definitely an eye opener. So I had a lot of fun.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
different experience.
The other thing is it's very intimate because there's only like maybe 1,000 people, maybe 1,500.
Talk about the food, Chris.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Talk about the food.
For the first time in my life.
Shame, Chris.
I went to White Castle. Now, we don't have that many White Castles here. My dad was like, let's get some White Castle. Now, I've had a White Castle.
Mr. Big Spender.
Yeah. We got, this is how you know.
Taking his son out.
How you know fast food here in America is a problem. They give it to you. We got the 20 pack because Dad and I were like, we could do 10 each. Let me tell you, once you get to like 6, you're feeling them. But, Dad didn't tell you this, but Dad, so they give it to you in a suitcase. I'll post the picture because I have it on my phone. But they give you a suitcase, and in the suitcase, each burger is cartoned. Yeah. And Dad's eating them, just chucks it in the back. It's like, I was like, Dad, what are we doing? He's like, hey,
no, I know because this morning he came back from the circle and he said, I had to clean the onions out of the back seat.
Oh. But you feel disgusting after that. It's definitely quantity over quality. So I have to put, if there was a tier list of fast foods, I gotta put White Castle like at the bottom.
Well, some people don't know. A White Castle hamburger is like a 2-inch by 2-inch burger. It's not like a Big Mac. You know, they're tiny.
Yeah.
So they're easy to like 2 bites and you've eaten one. It's not like they're huge. Yeah.
You're going through them like.
Yeah.
But
so 20's a lot.
I told Dad it was like, you know those military movies where the guy's shooting the MG and there's a guy with an ammo box. That's what it felt like every time Dad was like, another one.
Boom, boom,
I'm sitting in the passenger seat, but Dad's like,
take another.
So, but yeah, we went in there feeling like shit. Everyone's nicely dressed. They're drinking nice things, and we're like, oh.
The White Castle boys come in. Yeah. Oh,
so, but yeah, again, tons of fun yesterday. It was our dad's not really into fighting, but he knew guys on the card from the guy that went to the.
Yeah, it's a different experience. Yeah. It's fun.
So, yeah, it was fun. The other thing that I did appreciate, unlike the UFC, for some of our viewers who do watch the UFC, there's no breaks in between fights. It's just like hand raised, next 2 people are coming out. We probably watched 10 fights in 2 hours, I would say. So it's pretty quick, 2.5 hours good. Maybe. Like the main event of 7 fights in the UFC, that you're there for 3 at least. So yeah.
That's probably the best way though. Yeah. If you really like fighting, you want to see fighting, you don't want the downtime. If you're not into it, you don't want the downtime.
Yeah, and it's not like the UFC. It's not the highest of high people that need a whole come out song and whatever. Walkout song, not come out song, but
no
so
hyping.
It's just one after the other.
Pure fighting.
Yeah. So it was really cool. It was a really awesome experience. But besides that, we got some news this week. The big ones, I mean, we're actually recording this on a Sunday because I had those fights, as I told you guys. So the big one that I'm sure all of our gaming people saw was Kai Cenat's big. Let me see. Where is it? Social media influencer. There it is. Had this big meet and greet. This is the same thing, but this is just a different article.
Yep.
So for those of you that didn't see, Kai Cenat, I think I pronounced that right. I don't really know his name. Thought he was gonna just pull a random meet and greet in New York City, and he said, "I'm gonna give free PCs and PS5s," thinking like 100 people would show up. Thousands. I think it was like 10,000 people showed up, and that'd be great if it didn't turn into an absolute riot. These people in New York, I forget where in New York, Union Square, they destroyed this place, and it's just not. This is just.
Well, I don't think it was on the BLM level of rioting.
No,
they weren't breaking windows. They weren't looting.
They were destroying cars.
They were jumping
anything on the
cars.
Street was,
They were, bumping into people. I think some were arrested. Some people were minor injuries. I don't know if anybody had a major.
Right.
Somebody thought there was gunshots. No, it turned out to be fireworks. So
Yeah, but this was stupid on his part. And he's 21. He's young. I get it, but I know he's wealthy enough and has a team behind him. He's not doing that by himself. No one was like, "Hey, you need permits for meet and greets, right? You can't just say, "Hey, we're gonna meet somewhere." When you have a following as big as him. I mean, he's got to be top 5 streamers right now. Mm-hmm. Thousands of people are going to show up no matter where you go. Mm-hmm. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in the sense of it's not like his choice was, hey, let's go riot down there. It's like, you got to know your demographic. It's all kids who, he's not known as a genius on stream. No offense to him. I'm not saying he's dumb, but it's not like the highest quality of people are watching him. I think that's a nice way of putting that. But
as opposed to our listeners.
Stellar. Yeah, you're not going to him to learn politics, right? Okay. Or how to, yeah. So, again, it's
coming here to learn it either.
Yeah, it's not his fault. It's not his fault that people were going to riot, quote unquote. Again, well, it is a riot. I shouldn't say quote unquote, but you got to understand that you can't just say we're going to meet here, everyone show up. You have to have permits. You have to have certain sanctions so that this doesn't happen, right? So it's this is depressing to me because he's one of the few streamers and YouTubers and stuff that is making this huge come up, and I'm like, finally, one that's like somewhat decent and has a good head on their shoulders, and then shit like this happens, which isn't completely his fault, but it's like, how'd you not think ahead to go... I mean, if you're averaging 100,000 views a day on one video, you think only 500 people are going to show up for a meet and greet in a big city like New York City?
Right.
Doesn't make sense. It's just not thinking. So.
Well, a couple things I will say about it. What I also found very pathetic was that the police wanted parents to come in and take control.
Good luck.
So what does that tell you about the quality of the New York City police force when they're asking parents to come in, thinking parents are going to step in and go through the crowds and pick their children out of the crowd?
Yeah.
Text their kids and say, Mom wants you to come home right now and get out of there? Okay, maybe some of them, maybe that would have worked.
But not all of them were kids. A lot of them are like mid-30s, 20s. It's like...
But you have a city that for the last 2 years has been going down in terms of crime, in terms of stopping crime. You have police officers that have retired or left in droves. So you're not no insult to New York City police, but they are understaffed, undermanned, and to me, this should have been expected in this environment. Nobody is saying, for these kids who have been sitting around, by the way, it's the summer too. No one's in school. Right? For these kids that have been sitting around, and young people, and even some of the older ones, I don't blame them. What they got to lose? So what if they get arrested? Nothing's going to happen to them. They got to go out. They got out of control. It was absolutely wrong that they did it. But they live in a city where there's no cost to the lawlessness. Yeah. The ones that'll be arrested, they'll get a ticket to come show up in court. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. They'll get a slap on the wrist. Maybe they have to pay a fine. And that's the end of it. So you're right. This guy should have known better. He's been charged with 2 felony counts of inciting a riot and unlawful assembly.
And that's only because, if he had a permit and this happened, it wouldn't be his problem.
Well, the police were saying, had he applied for the permit, this probably never would have happened.
Right.
I'm not so sure that's true.
Agreed, but at least that gets him off the hook for inciting a riot.
Yeah.
Because it's not like he said, the only reason he's getting hit with inciting a riot is because he didn't have the permit. Otherwise, it's just...
5 years ago, this wouldn't have happened.
Absolutely. I agree. Well,
so a lot of it plays into the environment, too, that he did it in. Now, is a 21-year-old responsible for the cultural degradation of New York City? Or anybody for that matter? No. Yes, he should have gotten permits. Yes, he should have used his head, etc., etc. But
I'm also surprised no one around him told him. He's not the first person to ever do a meet and greet. There's tons of other streamers that I know he's friends with that he could have said, hey, how would I do this properly?
But you know what? He posted something at 3 p.m. saying, I'm going to have, I promise, free 5 PlayStations if you come to some particular location. So the police became aware at that point because it was a social media post of some sort.
Yeah.
And I think it started to get out of
just
hand after
not
that.
thinking.
But when the answer is we want the parents to get involved. Come on.
Now we get to the police
Right.
point. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing a riot, I doubt they're listening to their parents to begin with.
Yeah, and how's that going to help you with the 30-year-olds
Yeah.
and the 20-something-year-olds? You know, it would be I would want to know as a parent to get my kid out of there if they were stupid enough to go to something like that. But again, it's, the police came in riot gear, which...
Intimidation factor, but it doesn't do much.
Well, I mean, they
I
should, but...
I saw one guy, the police grabbed one kid, and they threw him up against a car, and the kid's whole face went through the windshield. I was like, geez. And he was not... I mean, they got a question, was that kid even 18?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's such a weird mix of people. It's a weird demographic from 13-year-olds to 40-year-olds.
Yeah.
Which are there. So this is a bad look for Twitch streamers, in my opinion. This is
Sure.
really, this
Sure.
hurts us more than it helps us. I don't know. And the problem is the good streamers aren't that big. These streamers cater to the younger audience, which is obviously the majority. But I'm still waiting for one streamer who's considered a good person, one that's not going to do shit like this because they think 5 steps ahead, like a Markiplier, for instance, to be like, hey, when are we going to put we got to set a precedent. It's not a free-for-all when we do this stuff. You got to...
Well, is this common? No. I mean,
No,
do people usually have these type of
this
situations?
kid is so big, right? Some of the other big ones you don't hear about because he's not doing crazy shit. They're not doing this. This was a bad move all around. And unfortunately, his stock goes up after this. That's the problem with the internet.
Yeah.
So now more people have heard of him, right? Now
But
you
I
know
also
who he
say
is.
it was ripe for something like this to happen.
Yeah, New York
5
City
years
was-
ago, an
yeah.
18-year-old
Agreed.
done this, it wouldn't have been... I don't think it would have been this bad. He did it, unfortunately, in an environment where lawlessness is acceptable. I mean, it's the city is a tinderbox. This will happen again, believe it or not.
Absolutely.
With somebody else. Maybe not an influencer. It could be some other event. It will especially now that it happened
But at least they would probably have permits. Like, what makes me mad is, like, he didn't think that this was going to happen. Like, you didn't foresee you have X amount of viewers a day. You're a huge celebrity in the streaming world, and you thought only 500 people.
I think he might have thought a crowd would show up, but he might not have thought they would have rioted and
Right,
started
but-
doing
but
lawless
the fact
lawless
that you didn't
things.
think the fact that you think that you, as big as you are, can just walk in and be like, I'm going to have a meeting here, and you think it's just going to go well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
There's no,
well,
there's no world where you think that's going to work.
I don't know. I don't know that you would think it would turn into something negative and nasty.
You don't think about it, but you can't assume that only 100 people are going to show up in New
I
York
guess
City.
not.
If
I
it
guess
was,
not,
If
but-
it was some shitty city in Utah, maybe, but
Mm-hmm.
New York City...
Yeah, I mean, they have crowds like this in Central Park when they have
that's in
concerts and
Utah.
stuff, but it's,
Right,
it's regulated, it's permits, it's
security,
security and
blah, blah,
everything
stuff,
else. So,
yeah.
yeah, I get it. But, no, I mean, yeah, he wasn't thinking. People around him wasn't helping him. He did something at the last minute, and he will probably, maybe, pay a price for it. I don't know.
He'll probably have to pay a fine, but again, it's New York City. They probably...
Well, these are felony charges, so it's a big deal
I
in
don't
the
think he'll
sense
do
that...
jail time, but I think he'll probably have to pay
yeah, I
a
don't-
hefty fine.
Right. So we'll see how it shakes out. But, it was a little bit premeditated on his part. He knew what, to your point, he should have understood
Poorly
how many
premeditated.
people. Now, is he responsible for people breaking laws because of it? No.
But- Because,
you know.
I think... Here's why I think yes, because he didn't have that permit. That permit is the difference between going to jail and not going to jail.
But
and the
unlawful assembly, yes.
violence. Right.
Counts to incite riot. You're going to have to show that
Proof of
he
that, yeah.
wanted them to come and get wild. I don't know. Maybe they have evidence of it, but to say, he had these people come unlawfully, got it. You should have gotten permits. That they got there and they acted outrageously.
Right.
Because, by the way, some of the people who showed up maybe didn't even know what it was about.
Yeah,
They just saw a crowd, and they figured, maybe it'll get out of hand, and we can start looting some stores, right?
And that's why we have permits and a place to do it. And
Right.
you don't just say, let's meet on the street.
Right.
You say this building.
Well,
with an
there would have
address.
been more of a police presence. I'm not sure that would have made a difference in New York City, to be honest, if
Right.
it grew to a big enough crowd. But at least it would have taken the pressure off this 21-year-old. So, inciting a riot, you got to prove that one to me. But unlawful assembly, I agree. There's a process. He didn't follow it, And lesson learned to a lot of people who think, hey, I'm just going to throw out a promo and see who shows up.
So yeah, it's just it definitely makes me lose a little respect for, like, how'd you not? You have a certain responsibility as a streamer, as someone who these kids are watching. This sets a bad example, I think. Actually, I know it sets a bad example. This is not.
Let's be honest. 21 is a young age.
It is.
You're not going to understand. You got to get permits. You got to do all these things.
Right.
You would hope you'd have advisors there who would help you.
You can't just wing shit.
No. Now it's a lesson to a lot of people. He may be the forebearer of this for a lot of young people, that in this society right now, it doesn't take much in any city for a large crowd to get out of control, and you might be responsible for that. You got to dot your I's and cross your T's, and even then, you may not be so lucky.
What do you want to do next? I want to get off this topic. This kid's annoying me now.
Well, we could do the Meta one because I had two that were similar. So Threads continues to struggle.
Meta, hold on, really? Meta's Reality Labs has now lost more than $21 billion since the beginning of last year.
Yeah, their VR and their AR unit had a $3.7 billion loss in the second quarter alone. His excuse is that we're dumping money into more research development. It's going to happen. The overhead's big. You got to lose money doing that. But Meta still feels it's competitive in the VR market and is offering a new subscription service that they just came out with, and they think that their units are cheaper. I mean, I think, who's the other one, was offering these.
They're doing a subscription
units
service?
that were like $3,500 versus theirs is only $399.
Yeah, so
Apple is it?
Apple's new VR, the Vision Pro.
Yeah, it's crazy expensive.
Is $3,500. The difference is, and where I think the more I look into it, the more it's a little justified, the price. Mm-hmm. It is a full computer like mine.
Right, we talked about
headset,
that one. Yeah.
Whereas the Oculus is really just a secondary monitor.
Right.
But
not everybody's going to be springing for $3,500. No, his is more reasonable.
But Apple shoots every price up. Even their desktops are like $10,000, which is stupid.
Yeah, in totality, though, I mean, $21 billion. I think the person who posted this story even said, I mean, I know, how did he put it? I know it's Meta, but even that's a lot of money.
Well, their market cap, I just looked up, is $729 billion.
Yeah.
So it's not that much of a loss for them.
Right.
But again, $21 billion on an idea that could have been great, but just came at the wrong time. Hurts.
Yeah.
No matter how you look at it.
But they're not saying it's bad. He says we're right where we need to be. Similar to his Threads. So as we said last time, that's also a Meta offshoot. Threads continues to struggle. So when it launched, it had 44 million users checking it out. 44 million users. They spent 19 minutes opening it 14 times a day. They're now down to 8 million in July that go 2.9 minutes, and they open it 2 to 3 times a day.
Right.
But similar to the AI situation with the $1 billion loss, Zuckerberg says, no worries. That's better than we anticipated for this time.
Well, the loss is a loss either way, so you can't really look at it like that. But also,
to go from 44 million to 8 million users, that's a big chunk.
Yeah, but I would say that Threads could be something better. The problem is, and we talked about it last time, Threads is only bad because it's an unfinished product that already has a blueprint from Twitter.
Yeah.
And you put out a product that just doesn't have the features that it needs yet.
Right.
The first thing I would say to Zuck is, why didn't you just wait on Threads till everything was there? Because Threads is just a shitty Twitter.
Yeah, he just want to get this thing out.
Yeah,
competitive with
but I don't know why, because there's no money. So my guess is it was like, hey, we have to have a certain number of users to continue this project. So he put it out anyway, got the user base, whatever, and said, here's what we have, let's start working on it. It's kind of it's a rough business model in that regard. But when you're a company that big, I guess it does make sense, because again, to them, 21 billion to us sounds like a lot, but for them that's not that much. It hurts, but it's not that much.
Right, and the same thing with Threads. He doesn't. They'll perfect it over time. They'll dump more money into it, but his point is, we still have marketing. We still have people interested in advertising. We just don't have the viewers. It's a catch-22. You better start getting more viewers because it's going down.
And a lot of the factor of a big reason why Threads was doing well was the lie he told, which was like it's completely separated from your Instagram. That's not true.
Right.
So you end up you just take Instagram users and say, oh, they're on Threads too. So you bump up your number.
Yeah.
That Facebook has been known for that. Like Facebook gaming is pretty much dead because people still stream on it, but they flub the numbers. And the way they flub the numbers is, let's say I'm on my homepage of Facebook. I don't think you've ever used Facebook, but Facebook is basically just one long feed, kind of like Twitter.
Yeah, no, I've seen it.
If there's so let's say I have my screen here, but if I scroll down, there's a video of a streamer that's streaming a video game. That still counts as a view.
For that person.
Yeah, for that person. So, let's say 1,000 people are just perusing on Facebook. Right there, this guy got 1,000 views because it's on the homepage. So I'm not watching it. I'm just scrolling by, but it's on my screen. Technically,
and
if I scroll down.
And you don't put that on there. That gets loaded on.
It's already on there and you recommend it. So you can't flub numbers. That means that no one's watching, or the people that. It means that even though it's on my screen, I'm still watching, but I'm not. Right. So, and then the way you know, and the big giveaway is if you had 1,000 viewers on a live stream, your chat's gonna be tough to keep up with. Like the people chatting, there's like no chats on these multi-$1,000 or 1,000 viewer streams. Yeah. So Facebook's always flub numbers. They can't really hide that. Whereas I don't know if Twitter would be much better. I'd like to see what Elon does with that. But we don't have live streaming on Twitter just yet. Not through Twitter, at least. So
I will say this with Twitter. I just saw this right before we started the podcast. Elon posted today, I think it was. If you were unfairly treated by your employer due to posting or liking something on this platform, we will fund your legal bill.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how he's going to do this.
He took it even farther and said, we'll go after the board, too, of the company.
He has the money to do it.
I know, but that's not the point. He's doing it for anybody that happens to.
But you have to prove it, and how do you prove that?
You got the Twitter. You could see if they went after you.
Oh,
if
that's true.
If an employer fires you over it, and the timing of it, they will fund your legal bill.
Right, but I wonder what Twitter gets out of it. They probably get a certain percentage of if you have your winnings.
Maybe, I don't know. Doesn't say anything about it. It says no limit too. It says no limit, which, if at a minimum, it would give some people pause to say, if this person can sue me. Normally you say, go ahead, sue me. You don't have the money. I'll take you to court. It'll drag on for 10 years and you'll lose. Well, now you're in a different ballgame here because now I got a multi-billionaire saying, on the record, no limit. We'll fund
multi-billionaire? I think you mean multi-hundred billionaire.
Whatever. Funding.
Big difference.
You're legal. So at a minimum, it should give some of these assholes pause to say, maybe it's not worth it.
Right. Another thing that I will say about Twitter, although the left were saying Twitter's going to fail and all that stuff, we've never seen 74 million views on anything before Elon was there.
Yeah.
We've never seen those kind of numbers on Twitter. So he's definitely doing something right.
And to say he's going after the board, that was the other one, right? I think I said both of them separately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a subtweet, I believe.
It'll be loud, and we'll go after the board of directors of the companies too.
Good for Elon.
Yeah. Like I said, it may not amount to much, and that's the point. Give them pause to say, stop going after people for free speech. It's against the law. It's against our Constitution.
But I will say some people have to keep their mouths shut, like Megan Rapinoe.
Oh, Megan.
Let me tell you something. I laughed so hard when I saw this. Megan Rapinoe, for those of you that don't know, is a...
Sorry to see you go.
Yeah, what's her name? I don't even know how you describe her nicely, because I don't think it's possible. One of those ladies that...
They call them woke.
She's one of those woke ladies who feels like she needs to be paid more for her sports. She's a soccer player. And then today was her retirement fight. Let's see. Oh, man. Retirement match, yeah. And, I mean...
Her final tournament.
I gotta show this. I just want everyone to see why she does not deserve to get paid.
She wasn't the only one. There were other kickers, too, that missed. So, in all fairness, but she's the most
she's hideous.
Well-known vocal one of the group who has been going after... she wants the money from the men's. She wants to get paid the same, or she and others want to be paid the same as the men, even though they don't draw the same
Yeah, they
revenue,
don't. For all those
and
in,
obviously they
it's a pain.
don't perform as well in a joke situation against Sweden.
Not at all. Now she gets to do talks at high schools because that's the only gig she's gonna get. Okay. Oh,
There it
come
is.
on, come on, come on. Watch this way. Yes, yes. It's horrible. Skyrockets it. Skyrocket. Go retire. Don't show your
And
face
that's
anymore.
why high school boys have beaten them.
High school boys, a retired men's team. There's nothing. Hey, you don't deserve the money. I said it.
Yeah.
I'll
They've
take
had
a
they've had good
ESPN.
seasons. They've won. They won a few years ago. But
Don't care. Man, I want them on. Put me on ESPN because I don't need a contract or anything. I'll tell you what everyone is thinking.
Yeah.
Everyone is thinking this. You suck.
Yeah, I know.
Get off the field for good. Don't come back.
I know.
No one wants your opinions. Anyway, I just had to show that one. I just had to remind everyone that
The
she's
interesting comments
awful.
too from a lot of people were, why is she laughing so much after it? She laughed at the end.
Because she knows she's gonna get so much shit for it.
Well, I mean, some people laugh with like nervous energy type of, I can't believe that happened. Like it's so ironic that you just start laughing versus crying. But
She also
anyhow.
looks like she put on some weight, which is why.
Oh, now you're
Transition.
Oh.
No, that's not true. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt on that one. But we're now starting to see the side effects of Ozempic and the. I always forget how to pronounce that one. Once you say it, it's.
Mojaro? Mojaro?
I forget. I think
Mojaro?
there's a special word
Mojaro.
for it, but
The
we're
mojo.
starting to see the problems with the Ozempic. So we've talked about Ozempic the last couple of months on some of the podcasts.
Yeah.
So Ozempic, if you guys remember, is the weight loss drug that is a diabetic medication.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pfizer and Moderna and another company started making a special version of it so that it doesn't take away from the people that actually need insulin for diabetes and an actual weight loss one.
I didn't know that.
They were working on a weight loss one.
That I knew. A weight loss one, yeah.
It's the same thing. But here's the problem with the side effects. Now, this is Ozempic that this lady was taking.
Yeah.
So now, for people who don't actually physically need it, they're starting to get what's called it's in here. Gastroparalysis. Yeah. Paranesis. There we go. Gastroparenesis, which is stomach paralysis. And what ends up happening is, I kind of learned a lot about the digestive system and how our digestive system works. Your stomach is basically a muscle that kind of works in like a wave. So it pushes food down towards the stomach acid. What ends up happening is this part up here, right in here, paralyzes, so it stops moving, and it can't push food down.
Mm-hmm.
So what ends up happening is the stomach acid, it's almost like having food float on water. It can't push it down to scrunch it, essentially. So the food just comes back up. Like full meals are coming back up because there's no stomach acid touching it. But apparently this lady's not, she's the one that's doing the lawsuit, but she's not the only one having these side effects. Like at first I thought it was only one person, but there's been quite a few cases of this. But this is what happens when the body can't metastasize that much insulin.
I don't know when that hasn't happened. Because it regulates it for people who don't have the insulin. Okay. Like I didn't know why that would happen to people.
I gotta start switching out your mic. I gotta take away your mic privileges. I don't know what you're hitting, but
I'm not
every
hitting
single
anything. I haven't touched this once.
time.
I haven't touched it once.
Let's see.
I mean,
always wonder.
I've hit it in the past, but I haven't touched it
I
once.
always wonder how my mom does it. Hopefully it's not too bad. But yeah. So the Ozempic problem is, I think. It's going to, you're going to hear more of this stuff and the long-term effects we don't know because your body's not supposed to take more insulin than it already is.
Mm-hmm.
So, or can already regulate. So you're
Yeah.
putting your body in overdrive. This is just this is a start to a lot of problems, I think.
People, you got to eat less and move more. That's all it is. Eat less and move more. There's all these fads out there to make it happen faster.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. It didn't take you a week to put the 30 pounds on.
It's not going to take you a week to take it off either.
Everybody wants it off instantaneously. Well, it took you a long time to put it on. It didn't happen overnight. You're not going to lose the weight overnight. Or when you do get these kinds of things, they always turn out to have a side effect.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because I know even with this, people are still going to give it a shot. You can give them debilitating information that's like, this will kill you, and they'll go, what's the odds? You know?
Well, for individuals that are obese and it's, the cure is worse than living with the obesity, or the obesity is worse than living with the cure for short term. Maybe there's something to be said for it. But these are for people trying to lose 20, 30, 40 pounds.
Yeah.
And, okay, good for you. You lost it in a week. Whoop-de-doo. But it's the same story. If you're a healthy person, you're fat because you ate too much.
But my thyroid.
And sometimes that is the case. I'm not
thyroid.
saying that's not the case, but for a healthy person, you shouldn't be using these things. We all want it off overnight. But that's the reality. You're eating too much. You're not moving enough.
No, yeah, that's 100% what it is. And laziness is a factor. Also, the foods that you are eating. Remember, 90% of our obesity problem is in the poverty levels. Isn't that kind of wild?
Because it's all processed food.
Exactly.
Cheap, easy, processed food. That's what changed it for everybody. And I've always said this. Obese people nowadays, when you look at obese people, it's not normal fat. When I was little, you had fat people.
Yeah.
But they were fat. They had their stomach, their legs got big, their arms got big, whatever now. You look at some people, they're fat like all over their legs.
Yeah.
They're
Their
fat in
forehead.
their arms. Yeah, it's
like,
an
how-
unusual. I think that has to do with the engineering of food. I'm not a scientist,
Health is
but
everything.
yes, that's why I say I love these. This has happened for centuries now. We're always looking for the quick fix for everything. This is the latest thing, and it's dangerous to take something that's meant for someone who has a serious condition like diabetes.
Yeah. Well, you can always lose weight, but you can't change your race. An
That's
Asian
right.
woman asked. Transitions.
Unbelievable.
My transitions are amazing. An Asian woman asked AI to improve her headshot, and it turned her white.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's. Could you zoom out on that a little bit? Can you see the whole picture with that? That was keep going down in the article. I think there's a better
okay.
picture. So
Race.
okay,
that
let's
one?
stop on that one. Okay.
Wow.
All right. Okay, yeah, you got all pictures. So
That
she
is
asked
bad.
it to make her headshot more professional looking. It wound up lightening her skin, and it changed her race. Looks like it changed her eye color, too. She used the AI image generator called Playground, and that's what they came up with. Now, I would just like to point out to you, her little Twitter picture looks more professional than the picture that she asked AI to change.
Yeah, I guess maybe she was just testing it, like to see what it would do.
There's a little bit more to the story, but yeah, I think this was more of a let's see what happens kind of
Poor
thing.
girl.
But I also like to say, if you want to look professional, lose the MIT T-shirt and put a business shirt on, comb your
My
hair,
mom's doing the nitpicking.
and do so. Well, I mean, I see her point that that's ridiculous.
is
It doesn't
insane.
even look like her.
I'll say this about the AI now that we're again, we knew that this conversation was going to come up eventually, and it came a lot faster than I thought. There's too many AIs now, and it's becoming a brand. And what I mean by that is the quality of AI is going down, but there's more of them.
Yeah.
So unless it's a Chat GPT or a like a
Open
Google one,
AI.
people that are just making these half AIs, like Jason said he had one. We just finished that Remnant game that came out. We platted it, no big deal. But Jason was using an AI. He uses a Google AI, not the Google one, but an AI that basically, if he looks something up, it gives him almost like a conglomeration of all the information he needs.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, it doesn't make sense. Like it's not
Yeah.
true. So these third-party AIs that don't have the huge amounts of money that something like OpenAI has, or Google or Facebook, whatever, they make these AIs that are like conceptually what the big ones are, but they're not, and then they sell them.
Well, I couldn't really understand the argument of the CEO, who was basically saying, well, she only tried it once. So I don't know. He's saying you should keep going until AI gets it right.
When we do 3D scans for like movies and stuff.
Yeah.
So when you have to do headshots to the face overlays and stuff, like how they make when they de-age someone.
Yeah.
It's not one picture. You have to do. It's like a room.
A series of
cameras, and
them.
they have to, yeah.
Right.
So one picture, you have to train the AI.
Right.
But I still don't think that justifies the fact that there's so many AIs now that just blew up in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
That like the quality of AI has gone down, and it makes me go, oh, that Terminator mentality that we had of the robots
They're
are
gonna take over the world.
It's like, well, it's not gonna be one of these.
No. Right.
So that one to me, I mean, poor
Artificial,
girl, but
not so intelligent.
exactly. That's what it feels like. But At least she's not interviewing for a football team.
Oh. Yeah, I threw this one in.
Pac-12 melts down as 5 more schools depart for other conferences.
Yeah, Oregon and Washington jumped to the Big Ten.
Let me pause by saying I don't know anything about college sports.
Neither do I.
Like I know basics about sports. Yeah. I can hold a conversation, but I don't know. Pac-12 is like the 12 biggest schools, right?
No, it's a region.
Okay.
They're divided by regions, sort of. And what I learned from this article, and I didn't go into it, but the money they make from the broadcast deals was like $58 million per school in one division last year. Wow. That's a chunk of money. So it's important that you get these deals. And it seems like that's part of the problem Pac-12 had over there on the West Coast. They seem to be mostly on the West Coast, Southwest, that they weren't getting the deals. And slowly teams were leaving, and there was only a few left. So recently, Oregon and who was it, University of Oregon? I forget which one. And Washington jumped to the Big Ten. That's the like Penn State and those Big Ten. Arizona State, Utah moved to the Big 12, which is another group out there. So now you got 4 teams left in the Pac-12. California, Oregon State, Stanford, and Washington State. The Big Ten and the SEC have big broadcast deals. So with those broadcast deals, these other schools, this commissioner for the Pac-12 was trying to negotiate something. He tried to work something through Apple. I don't think it came through in time. It just wasn't as competitive. So a lot of these schools, you can't blame them. You know, they got a chance to go, so they left. But basically this Pac-12, which has been around for 108 years, is on life support. Now, you know, California, Oregon State, Stanford's a big school, Washington State, those are big schools, but will it be enough to keep one division going? I don't know.
I just don't know. I mean, I'm not a big college football person, as I said. I barely watch the NFL except for Super Bowl. And if one's on while I'm doing something, but
it's just very interesting the dollars that they get from these broadcast deals.
This more so shows to me the amount of money that goes into the sports and not the school, which we always talk about. But it also goes to show that, to me, the players are always pawns in the game of just the finances, if that makes sense. So
they're getting their piece now since
luckily,
the NCAA changed their rules.
So to me, I don't know if I should be happy about this or not happy about this. Like that's what I need explained to me. Is this a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, not everything has to have a good or bad. It's just information, and it's a changing in the college level sports, because I think especially football, that generates so much revenue for some of these schools. Right. On the flip side, I didn't do the article, but I was reading yesterday. I commented to Dad about Northwestern. They've had all these problems with the football team, right, with the hazing, and I remember when Penn State had issues. 10 years ago, is it now? Maybe even longer, on the football program. I don't remember the whole story because we weren't associated with the school at all at the time, but like Northwestern, I'm just watching, now they're going after everybody. The baseball coach was having problems. Like the whole athletic department, they're bringing everybody down.
Interesting.
It just shows you the how high up these athletic things, great things to do for the school, and how fast it can bring a school down. I mean, Northwestern's considered a very good institution, or was always considered a higher learning, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just amazing how fast this one scandal is now permeating across all the sports.
Schools rely too much on sports. 90% of their money well, I shouldn't say 90, but I'd argue 60% of their money comes from just sports alone, and then the other 40 is endowments. So
yeah, I mean, academia in this country is so messed up. It's a glut. It's a glut of dumping money, tax-free in most cases, never taxed, endowments, whatever, and they just pour more and more in. And we recently had the student loan debt forgiveness, and you look at these institutions and the money they have, especially some of these bigger ones, especially with the sports program. Yeah. It's just the whole design, it just doesn't make sense anymore in this day and age.
We always hear about the college football player that made it to the NFL, but they never hear about the guy that rode the bench for 5 years, got the shittiest degree possible, and now can't find a job. Right now he's a construction worker or something, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But
we kind of went in the wrong direction. Instead of adjusting it and saying, well, maybe we should let sports be sports and let's look at the academic side, we said, no, let's beef up the sports to support it, and now you got to pay players, and now you got these coaches with these huge contracts, and now when there's a problem, it impacts the academic side, right? Because now they're tearing these universities down.
They start cutting the educational programs so that they can make up for new uniforms for the football team.
Right. And I have to say, overall, with AI, with social media, with the internet, YouTube and other things. I just think brick and mortar is not the future of academia. I don't think these institutions will last.
I always think of that Livy Dune girl, the college one, the gymnast who makes a crazy amount of money. That's great, but it's like, okay, let's say this all falls apart tomorrow. What do you have to fall back on? I don't know if she's like a genius scholar or anything, but gymnastics as a whole, you don't go anywhere in gymnastics except for the Olympics. And even then, you're not getting paid. She gets paid as an influencer, not as as an athlete, right? So she's the definition of someone that, or actually, I should say, she's not like a athlete that got to the professional level like a football player. Like the college to NFL, okay, that makes sense, and like getting paid as an athlete. But someone like her, she doesn't get paid. I'm trying to put this into like how it correlates, but it's like, the school puts money into her, right? She ended up basically not needing it. So what do you do with all that excess money that can go to the gym? Because now she's set.
Right.
So I don't know how to tie this in. So maybe I'm not really making that much sense. But I just think of how it's great that now athletes can make money their own way. And I wish that more athletes could do that.
But see, I disagree. I think that's the wrong... When you look at the dollars, I understand why they want to pay the athletes for it, but that's my point. We went in the wrong direction. It was always supposed to be academic first. You played for your school. If the team was great, it brought your school attention. Right. It didn't become about the athletics. And a lot of these schools have become about the athletics. It funds their programs. It's like it's a do or die. So somebody like this gymnast who comes along and makes her money, all right, she took a chance. She found a niche. She's doing it. But gymnastics, and there are many gymnasts in college teams, it's not as huge as football. Obviously, it doesn't bring in the dollars that those type of sports do.
She's such an outlier because even though she's a gymnast, she's not famous because she's a gymnast. She's famous because she's an influencer.
Yeah, so
and just happens to do gymnastics.
Right.
She can leave gymnastics tomorrow.
Yeah.
And be fine for the rest of her life.
Right.
Whereas everyone else on that team, it's like we only have gymnastics. We're not Livy or whatever her name is.
Right, but that's the American way, though. You can do something on the side and be successful at it.
You would think that the college would be like how weird is it? Imagine if you were on that team. This girl's making millions of dollars,
but having nothing to do with gymnastics.
But the school has to step in at some point and go, okay, there's a weird dynamic here that we have to close the dynamic in the sports setting.
Why? Because she's getting money to do gymnastics, and meanwhile she's making money?
She's not getting paid to do gymnastics.
Right, that's separate, though. That has nothing to do with the university. If she continues with the gymnastics, that's her own thing.
I'm terrible at, because again, my college sport knowledge is terrible in the sense of I don't know how it exactly works. So I am somewhat talking out of my ass here. But it just doesn't make sense to me that the school promotes her, but doesn't promote anyone else on the team. I couldn't name another gymnast. I don't even know what.
Does the school promote her, or does she make a name for herself with the OnlyFans?
The school,
and the school uses her now to generate revenue for the school.
I think, but then it's like, if you know you can do this with one girl and bump up your numbers, why wouldn't you do that with the other girls on the team? Why do you focus on one? Given she does have her own social media and her own thing, but it's like you could.
Well, because the social media she does it, you have to be an attractive gymnast, and they're
what
not all
attractive.
Mother?
No, there we go.
No, I'm serious. That's a reality. She's that specific thing. She's not doing a site just for gymnastics, and that's how she's got popularity. It's because of her looks that has made it.
Stuff. I don't know if she does anything else on TikTok, but it's just so weird to me now that a gymnast like her has become so. When was the last time we had a gymnast that was making millions of dollars? Who could it be?
Well, there have been, but they went pro because you couldn't be pro in the Olympics. You had to be an amateur. You couldn't get paid for your sports. And then later years, like Simone Biles and whatnot, they could start making money.
But Simone Biles doesn't make that much in comparison to Livy.
Because she doesn't do an OnlyFans.
Livy's not an OnlyFans person.
Well, what is she?
TikTok.
Oh, TikTok. Okay. Yeah. Well, but that's not anybody's fault. That's just a question of interest. You know, that's social media.
It's not the college's fault, but it's like, okay, so let's take her out of the equation. It's tough because there's so many factors like talent and whatever.
And Simone Biles she had a Wheaties contract. she had money on the side.
Man, I'm sure she's making a lot off of Wheaties.
She did. That's the big league for gymnasts. Mary Lou Retton had it. That's the big league. That, and if you get they get more attention now than they did when I was younger, because there are more avenues. There's sports avenues. There's clothing now. There's drinks, food, everything else. So she made some money. Now remember, a lot of people aren't crazy about her because she dropped out due to mental health issues.
Yeah,
so she left a lot of bad feelings for people who they don't.
Right.
Think that was appropriate, especially the timing. I think she was in the Olympics. She made the team and then she dropped out. Well, other people lost an opportunity because of that, right?
My other question is does Livy? How does she stack up to other gymnasts? That's the other thing I'd like to see. Again, I know nothing about gymnastics, but it's almost so. Let's say it's not like she's making an Olympic team. I don't believe. So it's like, what do you?
But again, that's not everybody who does a sport in college goes on to the Olympics or NBA or,
but
the NFL.
The college doesn't help them. That's my problem. The college isn't helping these people. They go, oh, great, you have a great social media and you're doing well, good for you. What do you do with the other 20 people on the team? You just let them just die out after college sports?
That's traditionally how it always is. And I think that's not the problem. I think the problem is when the school does get involved and start. Well, I told you Penn State started an initiative where they're raising money from the other people in the school, parents, alumni, whatever, to help these kids in light of the NCAA's ruling that they're now entitled to money, to get them lawyers, to get them PR people. What the hell is that? You're going to ask people that aren't in the sport to support the school in helping young people who have the opportunity to now make money with college-level sport? That's absurd to me. And, there'll be people out there who will do it because they believe in, got to make the name.
I don't have a problem with the making of money if you have like a jersey or because there used to be a rule where you're not allowed to make money outside of the sport itself. Yeah. So like if you were on TikTok, you weren't allowed to make money on there. You couldn't monetize or anything, or the school gets all of it. Right. I don't know what changed that, but now it's like
that I disagree with. I think that's a side business. If you want to do that, more power to you. Guess what? You could be the worst player on the team, the bench rider, and have a really entertaining, fun TikTok and make more money at that than you ever were going to make at football. So just because you were on the Stanford football team, riding the bench, and you're making money at TikTok, the school's not entitled to that. Just like I don't think it should be for an athlete.
Agreed. But what I was saying was it used to be like that. So, but now it's like now you're paying the players on top of the full ride scholarships that they're getting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think my overall argument, which is a huge ass backwards way of getting to it, is it sucks that these players aren't getting paid and are now, which is good. But it also sucks that colleges have now relied pretty much solely on sports rather than the academia, especially in these big states.
But that's the catch-22. Right. It's making so much money, therefore now you got to pay everybody huge salaries, and now, the schools have to rely on it. Where it should be the other way. We should cap the salaries. We shouldn't be paying these players. If they're that good, they'll get that NFL. If they don't get it, wake up. There's only so many spots on an NFL team. Now you have other options. Go do a TikTok, be an OnlyFans, do all these other things that didn't exist 30 years ago for those people sitting on those teams.
Should help the students promotionally if they wanted to start TikToks and whatever. Like I think sports take up your whole life. They are taking your college life away from you for sports, which, again, you're an athlete. That's your job.
Well, that's expectation if you're getting money to play these sports.
Sure, but you could I'm saying the sports
money being, I'm saying scholarships, not cash. I'm saying scholarships.
Yeah. But there's a stigma that everyone knows that if you're not going to the NFL or the pro leagues or whatever in any sport, you're kind of screwed unless you just because of your time, your schedule. There's no way.
No, I disagree, and that's the mentality that's wrong. People traditionally didn't always play sports because they were going somewhere with it. You did it for networking. You were part of a team. You represented your school. You became like the creme de la creme of, whatever school, Caltech or whatever. You not everybody's going to get a contract. You knew you weren't.
Right.
But you committed to doing that because you loved to play the sport, because you made innumerable friends across multiple universities, and you were part of something bigger than just yourself. You were part of a team, and that carried from high school into college, knowing full well you weren't going to do it after college, but you became a representative of your school, and
Right.
you now had something to put on that
But nowadays
resume
you don't
to
have
go
that.
into that job and say, hey, I played football too back in 1948. You played too? Yeah, I played too. Or softball or baseball, whatever. That's why you did it. Nobody assumed that they
Yeah,
would
but that
get
doesn't really
contracts.
exist nowadays. You think that still exists?
Of course it does, because you've got so many people out there that play sports that will never go anywhere beyond, if they're lucky, college. Division 3. But they have something in common with somebody, even somebody who just played Division 1 sport. If somebody comes in and says, oh, you played Division 3 softball, I played at Stanford, and you have something in common. If you went to the same school, that's called an alumni network.
Yeah, but I always hate that argument because that doesn't mean they're good at the job. It just means you have something in common.
Right, Chris, but that's the real world. Just like you could
Yeah,
you can walk in and for
Sure.
a job, and you could be, I'm applying for this job as I don't know what, a manager at some business.
Right,
And the
but-
person says, oh, you did YouTube for how many years? I did that in college too. And you wound up talking about that for like an hour.
Sure, but then he goes, hey, do some coding for me day one, and then I can't do it. And he goes, oh.
But if that's not the job, that doesn't mean nobody says, oh, we run softball together. Oh, go play some softball for me.
But that's
Not
what
if I'm hiring you for
but
some
that's
other
what it sounds
job.
Like. Like, that's my problem with the fraternity bullshit, which is, oh, we went to the same fraternity. You're going to give me a job. Remember Kenny and I had this argument at the diner that one time? He's like, you have to get a job from a guy that's from there because they give back. And it's like, okay, cool. They give you the job. It's a software design job where you don't have any clue about software. And then you can't do the job. And they're like, oh, I hired you for being in the same fraternity and you really have no skill.
Again, that's the quality of the person picking somebody. They could have 5 people from their fraternity come in,
but that's
and
what
one
I'm
of those
saying.
5.
Oh, because you have a network doesn't mean that you're useful in the real world.
No, but Chris, you're being naive to the fact of how hard it is to just get a job. Anything you can use to get your foot in the door helps you. If it's
Yeah, obviously, but
it could be
if-
something as simple as 2 people playing a sport together, or different schools, that could be enough for them to say that could be enough to set you apart from 5,000 other people that went for that job.
Sure, but then again, those other 4,999 people had degrees in software engineering, and you just played football. and
You're
you went for
assuming
it.
that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
just
that.
sound- but,
Not
what I'm saying is
necessarily.
that
You could all have the same degrees. You could all have the same experience, and it could be that one thing. That's why any kind of organization you can be involved in at any level could be the difference in getting that connection.
But you don't think that there's a stigma of, oh, I played football in college, and then the person hiring you goes, oh, this guy played football, which was his whole life. There's no way he did his own homework and stuff.
That could happen
There's
too.
whole fraternities that
could
do
happen too.
homework for
But I
sports
do
teams.
know, in talking to a parent in high school who went to Notre Dame, her brothers went there, and she was saying to me, now this was when Mike was a freshman, so almost 10 years ago. She had said at the time, they sit the players down at Notre Dame and they tell them day one, you're not all going to the NFL. You will have to get a job. Understand, you need to perform in school. Now, I can't follow through and say, oh, they're adamant about it, and
Like,
I've never touched
D's,
players.
D's for degrees.
But my understanding is they make it very clear, whether they follow through or not, that don't think you're all going to the NFL, because you're not. You're here for a reason, and you have to get a job.
Right.
Does that make them any less gung-ho about finally making the Notre Dame team? No. And that's, to me, is even more beneficial for the grunts that know they're never going to go to the NFL. They're there because they love the sport. They want to play. If they get a shot, great. If something happens, great.
But, I would be
most
curious to
people
see if
understand
that
that's not going to
equals a
happen.
Strong degree afterward. Like, how many of them are like gender studies? Because it's the easiest major while they're playing
But
football.
that could come back to what I was saying before. When you're making it so easy for these people to get in, and you don't challenge them when they're there, and you dump more money into the program, the sports become more important than the academia.
Right.
And that's a problem. We went the wrong direction. We should have been heading more towards, let's pay them less. We got to cap these salaries and focus on the education. That's why 99% of them are there.
But that's
99% are never going to go there.
But that's never going to happen because sports are so indoctrined into college because that's where they make all their money.
No, it's the opposite. It became indoctrinated in the younger. Everybody thinks their kid's going pro.
That's
okay?
true. Yeah.
So that's where parents start dumping tons of money into young kids in whatever sport. Pick whatever one you want, because that's going to get them into the good high school. And that good high school is going to get them into the good college. And that good college is going to get them what? NFL? No. That's what parents have to realize. It's going to get them into a good college, but what is that going to do for them? That gives them one slight advantage over anybody else, all things being equal, towards another job. They're making connections at that level. They got to a good school, quote unquote good school, and they have opportunities, hopefully, that they weren't going to have if they were just one of 20,000 kids at that university, regardless of grades and everything else.
Right, but if it doesn't correlate to the real world, as in, cool, you got this job, but you don't actually have the capability of doing the job. You just have on a piece of paper.
But you're making that assumption. Nobody's saying you're not capable. And as we've said, there are very few jobs out there that people can't learn once they graduate.
That's true.
That's the reality of 80% of everything out there.
Course,
depends on the job, but 80% reality.
But I just always hate... I'm more so talking about the fraternities at this point, because I think fraternities are stupid. The idea that... Not that the fraternity life itself is fun, but, oh, this guy's an alumni of the fraternity, so he has to give me a job. And then you realize, oh, this kid just partied for 4 years.
Well, it's not has to, but it keeps the value of the fraternity. But, no, to your point, if a kid's a loser kid and you keep churning out loser kids, that hurts the fraternity as well, because it gets the reputation of poor candidates.
Yeah.
You got to get the lame student that gets in there, and sometimes they perform really well in the job. They were just sucked at high school and college, whatever.
Yeah.
But
there's definitely people with poor grades that do
Right.
very well at a job. Absolutely.
Right. It's about networking. It's about getting out there. It's about, that time I hit the mic.
Let's see.
It's about...
How bad was it? No, we're good.
Okay. It's about meeting people and being part of something. Think about it. You met somebody through the Y. Their kid needed a job for the summer. They talked to you. You gave the kid a job. That's called networking.
Yeah,
the YMCA was your networking area.
Yeah.
You talked to people. You've got another person a job there. He needed a job. The only thing you knew about him was you knew him from the Y.
Yeah.
That's called networking. And
But
when you're
I-
a
but
kid
the
that
only-
doesn't have access to that.
Right. But
Right?
I only hired one of the people because they already had years and years of experience.
But they met you through that.
But
You
that- but-
never
but-
would have known about them
Sure, but
if you
again,
didn't have
there's
that
a difference
network.
between someone that's in their 50s who has a huge track record and a kid that played D1 football.
Again, we're talking about how you make the connection.
I
Forget
agree,
the quality
but the connection
of the
doesn't
person.
necessarily mean that it's a person that deserves the job.
Well, then again, you can make this argument, and I think it's a valid one. Some kid that played a sport 4 years and got their education out of it, that's a tremendous work ethic, because they weren't out partying. They had to make grades. They had to
I'll
do
take it the
certain
other
things
way.
in certain schools.
I'll take you the other way. D1, when I hear someone that went D, and this is from kids that I know that are D1,
Yeah.
they have kids that do their homework for
Yes.
them, give them the answers to tests.
Yes.
They still manage to get C's, which
Yes.
doesn't make sense to me. So again, to your point, if there's like a football player that becomes an astrophysicist, like that, I mean, hire that man right away,
Yes.
no matter where.
Yes.
But I mean, again, that's like, I would say that that's almost as hard as getting to the NFL. To be a D1 athlete in any sport and then become an astrophysicist.
Well, let's
straight
take
A's?
the football out of it.
Sure.
Let's take it one of those obscure sports that nobody cares about, that you know
Track.
you're not doing anything with other than you're schlepping around the country to play this sport because you love the sport and you want to be
Right.
part of it. And it's your ethic. It's your work ethic. You've been doing it your whole life. You're lost with a Friday night if you're not out of practice.
Right.
You want to be on the field Saturday morning at 8 a.m. You don't want to be sleeping in from the bar the night before. It's part of their life, their DNA, if you will, and that carries them through. It got them a degree, it got them an education, and from there, what else do you do with it? Well, some people respect that because they went through that same experience when they were in school for some obscure sport.
Sure.
There is a benefit to being in a sport at the high school and college
I-
level.
I don't disagree about the networking. Like, the networking's great. Like, that's exactly what you want. But you can network all you want, and even if you get a job and you can't do the job, it's like, well, what do we hire you for?
Right. But Chris, that's true of anything. You
Right.
could
But
get it through a temp agency
There's
or
also,
whatever.
I will say there's also
It's
straight A
about-
students who end up not being able to do certain jobs either.
But
because
it's
they were
about
book smart.
networking. It's about having an opportunity.
Right,
if
to
you
have
can
a
do
foot in the
it,
door. Yeah, sure.
right? Because it's very hard to get a job. It helps, as you know. The better the school, the better your chances. The better your record, the better your chances. The better your
You don't
involvement
think-
in things,
you
the
don't think
better
that-
of your chances.
You don't think that certain, I would argue that certain jobs nowadays, if not most jobs, have kind of started to realize that college degrees in general don't necessarily mean that you're qualified for the job.
That's a separate issue. That's
is,
not what we're saying. When you're a pool of 10,000 people applying for that one or two jobs.
The one thing that could get you in is the fact that you both played football.
Right.
I get that.
Right.
Yes.
Or even if you didn't play football, somebody who respects the fact that they came from the same school that they did. That's what started our discussion. There is something to be said for playing a sport, even though you're not going to the NFL. Otherwise, there would be 99% of the people out there saying, I'm not doing the sport anymore. It pays for their education, and they know, what good does that do? Got me into a good school. Well, what difference does that make? That will give me more opportunities, hopefully, to better jobs, et cetera, et cetera. That's the mentality. Is that changing? Yeah, I do think that's slowly changing. But there is a value in being in a sport at the college level, high school level and the college level, far beyond, well, I'm going to make a ton of money and I'm going to go in the NFL. Lots of people out there, they're never going to have anything after college. They just love to play the sport, and it opens up doors in terms of meeting people. And also, beyond that first job, right? There are people that stay in touch many, many years later who went to school together and played on a team together. And they call each other when they're in their third job and say, hey, I just got laid off. Is anything at your company? Now, you have no clue how intelligent that person is or what they've done. You just know you played sports and there's a camaraderie, or it's a fraternity. You went to school with the person. They're the same ilk as you. You don't know how they performed or what they've done, but they had a reason to call you because you had something in common.
Yeah. Again, I don't disagree. I just don't know if... I still don't think it translates to knowledge.
Oh, nobody said it translates to knowledge. I didn't say
what's
that.
The point? Besides,
I just told you what
yeah.
exactly that. That's the point. It's about.
Yeah, I still think that networking means nothing if you don't have any skills to prove it.
Well, there's a lot of
or to back it up.
Ivy League spoiled brats whose parent got them into the schools with no skills whatsoever, who went pretty far.
But nowadays, a lot of them aren't getting hired.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think of one
I don't
kid.
know.
Remember, I gotta be careful here, but remember our high school valedictorian who was got into all those Ivy League schools?
Yes.
Now he drives a taxi.
Well, there might be issues with some people too. They get a little. Some people are very, very bright.
Yeah, but then again, I know kids that got Fs all the way through high school who are now multimillionaires.
Look at my uncle. My uncle was a freaking genius, and I don't throw those terms around because I don't believe people Jesus. He was a nut job. He was talking, before the age of 1.
Oh,
it's
I
just
had to
weird.
think of which uncle you were talking about.
Uncle Vinny. Okay, so he was probably I won't throw genius term around, but he was a highly intelligent individual, Fulbright scholar, got his business in a year, etc. Became a medical doctor, etc., etc. He had no money by the time he died.
Yeah.
I mean, he lived in a socialist country, but just because you're intelligent doesn't mean they want that, first of all, these high-end things that make a lot of money. But also, sometimes you're too intelligent, you can't apply it. Like there's an arrogance that comes with it.
Yeah.
And you wind up not being hireable.
That's a different kind of person, though. Like that's not...
That's what gets you driving a taxi. That's my point.
Right.
Sometimes people have issues. It's not about intelligence. It's about other things that play into it.
Yeah. I guess that's true. I'm just trying to think of any other examples, but... Yeah, but as I was saying, I also know the opposite of that, which were kids that were not good in school who ended up being successful businessmen.
Of course.
So.
Of course it happens. I mean, it's just some of them because they networked. Some of them got the job because they weren't qualified and somebody said, hey, we went to school together. Fine, I'll give you the job.
Right.
Do the best.
But again, to get to that level, you still have the skills to back it up.
Not always.
You don't become a multimillionaire just off networking.
Oh, yeah, but we're back to what I said before. Not very few jobs out there
require
you to be at that level of intelligence.
You're talking foot in the door. I'm talking longevity. Which
like
is
I
more
said,
important.
As I said, 99% of the jobs out there, you don't even need, as we've said, you don't even need a college degree. They could train you how to do it, and you start doing it. I mean, that's the
only
reality.
Jobs I think you really need a degree for that you can't do on your own is like anything medical.
Okay, I mean that's there are jobs out there that require a certain amount of background. Coding. I mean, it's like you throw that out there.
Classes online for coding.
Yeah, I mean, again,
coding you could pick up, like you could physically do it. It's hard to find a dead body.
I'm here to tell you, most jobs out there you could do out of high school nowadays.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so you don't even need to go to online to do stuff. Mm-hmm. Most jobs. That doesn't mean you don't learn on the job, become more intelligent, you grow in your thinking, you become more mature thinker, and you apply that to higher skilled jobs.
Right.
But that's my point. There was a time when you went, we've had this conversation, but you went to college to become a more well-rounded individual. Don't know that that's happening anymore. I have not seen that in the quality of education from any school, let alone,
And again, I think that's because they focus more on sports than the academia. Also,
there's a lot more to it than that, and it's not just
but
the
I
sports.
think it's a big part.
The sports is a big part of it, yes, but there's more. I mean, the downfall of education, that's too long a discussion now, but it's a lot of things. But you don't need a college degree. Even now, I say you don't. I don't know that I would waste it in the future.
It depends on the job, of course. But to your point, future, I don't think my kids would have to need a college degree for certain
think brick and mortar is going away. You'll still get the knowledge. You just will waste time on the woke garbage and the unnecessary crap they make you take that has nothing to do with your degree. Like, you have to take 3 credits of a sport and you're in the business school.
Yeah.
Like that's why? Bullshit. I'm a runner in the evenings, or I play tennis for fun, or I'm a basketball player. Why are you making me do that? How is that making me well-rounded? Well, it's not. It's to give jobs to the athletic department so they have a certain amount of credits for teaching or whatever. Stupid shit like that is what I say is the downfall of education, because people tend to be, after we just did the Ozempic thing, people tend to be, if you're done with high school, you're kind of an athlete. You're doing your own thing. That's like, I do agree with all these high schools that waive your gym requirement if you're on a team.
Yeah.
Why am I going to gym if I'm spending 3 hours on a field, doing whatever, lacrosse, running, blah, blah, blah. That's more than some kids do in gym class in an entire year in one afternoon. So that logic, I just this is where academia is going.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I just don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that this goes up from here. I think just the quality of our academia goes down even more. I don't see any positives coming out of this.
Right. The more they keep plowing into these schools.
I hear more about sports than I do the actual academia.
Right.
From a good perspective, which scares me more.
Point being with the Northwestern, this is why it's very risky, because now when you have a problem on the sports side, which can happen, makes sense. It's happened to many schools. And now we're finding, who knows how long this crap's been going on, for generations maybe.
Right.
But when you have that problem, it tears down the academic side.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no argument there. And I think there's more than enough evidence to prove that.
Well, depending on how bad it goes,
Quality of teacher, as you said, you don't want to get into the education. I don't blame you. But teacher, I feel like there's a strike on teachers' unions all the time now, Teachers complain.
Them complaining
enough, and they're not even good teachers.
No.
Again, I can give you all my college teachers. I think only 3 or 4 of them were actually there to teach. The rest were all on tenure or doing some kind of research.
Yeah, the whole system is to be broken down, and I think it's going to start with more and more people saying, "I don't need this."
Yeah,
I don't need
absolutely.
it.
Or it's going to be all online.
Or I can't afford it.
How many rappers have gotten their law degree from Harvard online? It's like,
yeah, well,
I think Cardi B's in there. Yeah. It's like. I don't know if I trust her as my lawyer, but yeah. Either way, that's all I had article-wise. I don't think there was one more, but it's fine.
You had one, or because
I had one more?
You did on mine.
I just want to see if we had any questions, but it doesn't look like it because I think everyone's doing.
You wanted a meme of the week last week, right, or something like that? Post a meme.
Well, I want to get more of those, but it looks like I guess everyone's a little busy. They're doing something else, so
Poodle too.
That's fine. We'll call it there. What else do I have to promote? Anything else? I think we're good. Again, one full year done, +1, which is nuts.
In the can, we like to say, in the biz.
The only things that I have to promote, again, it's been kind of a nightmare. I got the Twitch Clips one.
Powering off.
On Monday.
The camera just powered off.
What do you mean the camera
It just said powering off.
Oh, because of the... Okay, that's fine. I'll just leave it as a still frame. Just because I forgot that we didn't have the camera plugged in, so it must have just died.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my fault, but I'll just leave it as a still image. So the only thing I have to promote, so we put out... I didn't really put too much out, except for the Xbox Games Pass Roulette. We got a couple coming out next week. And then the Twitch Clips, a couple things, actually. So this comes out on Monday. Again, more questions, please, and topics. I know you guys are kind of scared to do it, but we don't bite.
Don't be scared.
Yeah. You guys post a ton of memes until I ask for a meme of the week, and then all of a sudden no one posts anything. And then I'm going to start posting the speed runs. We finished Remnant 2. We have a lot of stuff coming out in the next couple months. I don't know if I want to start the Dark Souls 2 playthrough. Walkthrough, I should say. So I'm still figuring out a lot of scheduling stuff with Jason and then everyone else. We might take a break from other games and just do like fun stuff for the clips. And then, yeah, I think that's it. Social media down below, promo codes down below, other streamings down below, Discord down below for the questions, hot takes, memes, podcast questions, articles, whatever. I think I said questions twice. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week. And I'll see you at stream. So.